Before we begin this podcast, please be advised that the following episode contains language that some listeners may find offensive and inappropriate. The opinions expressed by the host and guests are their own and do not reflect the views of the podcast producers. Listener discretion is advised.
Too bad you can't do that in life, I sure would hit the rewind button and go a different route, but, things happen. I just feel I didn't give a shit at the time because, I just had a bad attitude. And I was just mad at the world back then because nothing was going right. Couldn't get no job. Tell you the truth, it was kind of like this Johnny Cash song was stuck in my head. Shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
You definitely killed him, and it was definitely in cold blood. Most of you, I think, are sorry for what you did, and I give you that opportunity.
It destroyed both our lives.
It definitely did.
I'll get 69 when I get out, and I came in at 19. If they let me go, you know what I'm saying?
You are now listening to the podcast Voices of a Killer. I'm bringing you the stories from the perspective of the people that have taken the life of another human and their current situation thereafter in prison. You will see that although these are the folks that we have been programmed to hate, they all have something in common. They are all humans like us that admit that they made a mistake. Will you forgive them or will you condemn them? They are currently serving time for their murders, and they give us an inside glimpse of what took place when they killed and their feelings on the matter now. Here are the voices of those who have killed.
Imagine if a line in a song could make you want to kill someone. In 1980, in DeSoto, Missouri, 19-year-old Randy Armbruster shot his longtime friend at a party because of a single lyric in a 1950s folk song that brought on a fit of anger and rage. Nearly 50 years on from that day, Randy is now far removed from the rash and purposeless teenager he once was. In this episode, we invite him to walk us through that life-altering moment from his now mature perspective and to reflect on the compounding factors that resulted in Randy pulling the trigger of a shotgun and destroying the lives of two young men. What makes somebody capable of killing their childhood friend? How does the law reckon with a violent and deliberate murder? And most difficult of all, how can we separate the man from the crime in killings as brutal and cold-blooded as Randy's? These are some of the questions we will seek answers to as we revisit Randy's half-century-old crime on this episode of Voices of a Killer.
So, Randy, where are you from?
Jefferson County. A little town called Soto, Missouri.
DeSoto, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Born and raised, grew up there all your life? Did you ever move away?
Yeah, I lived there pretty much all my life.
What did your parents do growing up in such a small town?
My mom worked at a shoe factory, and my dad worked at a little ice cream plant.
Yeah. What year were you born?
60.
1960. So how old are you now?
62. I'll be 63 next month.
Wow, okay. Did you have any siblings growing up?
Any brothers and sisters?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a sister. Yeah, a sister a year older than me.
Do you still have a relationship with your sister and your parents?
Well, my mom and dad just died a couple years ago. All I got left is my sister.
You talk to her?
Yeah, I text her and stuff. She's a year older than me.
What was your childhood like growing up in small town DeSoto?
It was all right. Same as everybody else's, Went to school, graduated from high school in 1979.
79 is the year I was born. Did you witness any kind of violence or anything as a kid? Your parents get into drugs, alcohol, anything?
Nah, they got divorced when I was 8 years old, dog.
Was that hard on you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of had to grow up without your parents, both of them being there.
I worry about that because I'm a divorced parent. I worry about my kids, but I didn't experience that as a child. Both my parents are still together today, but I'm a divorced parent, so it makes me wonder what my kids go through. So was that pretty hard on both you and your sister?
Yeah, because we had to live with our mom and dad Dad went away to Arizona and stayed for years, and we didn't even see him. that grew up without his pops, you know.
Did he try to see you?
No, he ran off down there and stayed for years and never seen him for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
What was that like, him not reaching out to you and just leaving like that?
You know, kind of sad. You know, you miss out on having a mom and dad experience like something else you got.
Yeah.
Kind of on your own.
After interviewing a lot of prison inmates on this podcast, I've started to pick up on a recurring pattern. More often than not, individuals who commit violent crimes started off life in a dysfunctional or abusive family home. That fact is backed up by stats and studies in which criminal activity is strongly correlated with early childhood trauma. The cost of a broken childhood is high in the U.S., and it's a reminder that we need to prioritize policies that fix this core problem in order to effectively prevent crime later down the line. Talking to Randy, I quickly learned that his life has followed a similar bleak trend. Born and raised in small-town DeSoto in the 70s, Randy Armbruster was a child of divorce whose father had abandoned the family and hopped states to Arizona. Randy describes the void his father's absence left in his childhood home, as Randy lacked a stable role model at a formative time in his life. Of course, it's important to note that most kids who come from divorced homes don't end up in jail. But in Randy's case, the absence of his father surely left a lasting impact. What happened, I wondered, that took him from an 8-year-old kid playing on the DeSoto streets to where he is today, an aging man stuck behind the walls of the Jefferson City jail?
Whenever you got out of high school, what'd you do?
Well, I joined the Navy, U.S. Navy, 1979, since I got out of high school. Stayed in there about a year.
Yeah. Thank you
And
for
then,
your service.
Yes.
Did you get discharged, like a criminal discharge or something?
No, I got an honorable discharge, but I had caught this case.
What happened to get discharged?
I got an honorable discharge. I was done with that, and I was out for 6 months before I caught this case.
Okay. Okay, so you were in the military. You got an honorable discharge, and you're done with the military. Later on, no matter how long it is, it's still later on, you caught a case.
Right.
Now, whenever you got this discharge from the military, why did the military discharge you?
To adjust to military life. I completed boot camp and all that, and I did good, but it was all voluntary back then, and you could get out.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't. So it was an honorable discharge, but something was to where they actually kicked you out.
No, I didn't get kicked out. I just left. You had a choice.
Okay.
After you did finish basic training.
Okay.
You could
I'll admit that I know I have. I'm the youngest of 4 boys, and I have all 3 of my older brothers went to the military. I'm the only one that didn't, for whatever reason. And I feel like I know a little bit about it, but I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there that hears this going to check it. But I was almost certain that if somebody joins the Army, you don't just leave.
It was 1979. I joined the U.S. Navy, completed boot camp, got an honorable discharge. They put on a paper here to adjust to military life, and that was just done.
Okay, we'll move on from that. What would cause you to not adjust to military life?
Didn't want to be there no more.
Were you going through some change and some things, like personally, you feel like?
Yeah, it felt like I was being in prison. You know, I just joined after being out of high school.
Yeah.
And I decided I'd rather just go and get a regular job.
You kind of went into a strict environment and just didn't really want to deal with that, basically?
Right. It felt like I was in prison, and like I say, it was all voluntary.
Yeah. Okay. So whenever you did leave there, you got work?
Yeah, I had a job.
Where did you go work?
I had a job working for a school from 3:30 to 11:30 on the second shift, cleaning and doing the janitor.
Oh, janitorial stuff. I got you. So how long did you do that for?
6 months.
That's when you caught this
Yeah,
case?
I got laid off.
Were you going through some trouble at this job?
Yeah, I got laid off from the job and started just running around getting drunk and high and shit.
Were you getting drunk and high at work?
No, I just got laid off because they was cutting back. It was 1980, kind of like a recession thing going on. So I lost my job, and I just started running around partying all the time. I was only like 19 years old.
At 19, Randy found himself at a precarious fork in the road in his life. By 1980, he was at a loose end with limited prospects and a short-lived stint in the U.S. Navy behind him. Despite enlisting right out of school, Randy elected to exit the Navy just after completing his basic training, citing a struggle to adapt to military life. This type of discharge is an entry-level neutral discharge. It's a voluntary choice a recruit can make if they realize that they're not a good fit for the rigorous demands of the military. Navy life isn't for the faint of heart, and possibly Randy felt he had bitten off more than he could chew at 19. He describes military life as a quote-unquote prison, a punitive and restrictive institution in which a young man fresh out of high school might feel trapped. But Randy's life outside the military had its own set of challenges. After working briefly as a school janitor, Randy was laid off, a casualty of the recession that spread across the U.S. in the early 80s. So began a difficult period of unemployment in which Randy, young and angry with the world around him, fell wayward into a directionless existence and spent his days drinking and getting high.
You just left the military. You're like, F this. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do my own thing, even though I committed to the military. What was your life like? Were you really effed off doing drugs and really just partying and stuff?
Yeah, I was, like I said, I lost my job and I just didn't have shit and I couldn't get tried to get other jobs and couldn't get none back then.
Level with me. What kind of drugs were you doing back then?
I was just smoking weed and drinking, that's all.
That's it? You weren't doing anything else?
I wasn't doing no hard drugs and no kind of drug drugs. But drinking, you get screwed up when you're drinking. I'm drinking whiskey.
No, I know.
Vodka.
I guarantee. I promise you. I believe that 100%. I just usually Missouri involved. The 80s, maybe I'm thinking some meth. I don't know, but
it wasn't really that bad back then.
Okay, so the victim in your case, how do you know them?
We went to high school together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we was all in Soto High School.
Was this a girl or a guy?
I was a guy.
Okay, it was a friend of yours?
Yeah, he's a friend of mine. He's 17, and I think I was like maybe 18, 19. Yeah.
What did y'all do together in high school? Y'all just hung out and partied and stuff?
Yeah, we were like neighbors. Lived
neighbors on the same street?
Yeah, just a little bit down the road. It was like a mile away.
Did y'all hang around each other even before high school as kids?
Yeah, pretty much just a high school. Yeah. We all grew up together. We were just young teenagers.
What's something memorable about this person that you can remember y'all having a really good time back when you were kids?
Like I said, we went to high school. Sometimes I'd see him in the library and help him out with shit because I was a couple of years ahead of him. So,
did y'all hang out together besides school? Did y'all party together?
Yeah, a couple times.
Okay. The partying wasn't more memorable than an incident in the library?
No, not really. We were just friends and lived in the same little neighborhood.
Yeah. So what would cause you to be mad enough to take this guy's life?
We had been drinking, and earlier that day we had gotten into a fight.
How old were you at the time?
I think I was like 19.
So this is right out of high school?
Right.
And he's like, what, 18?
Yeah.
Well, you said y'all were getting to an argument about something. What was the argument about initially?
I don't remember that, but like I said, we got into a fight, and that kind of pissed me off.
A physical fight?
We got in a fight, fist fight.
Did he get the best of you?
Yeah, earlier that day, and I was like, young and angry and drunk.
Sure, yeah, I get it.
So, and later on, I just, had that bad attitude when I was young like that. And I said, later on that day, I just went and got a gun, went hunting down.
So why are you guys mad at each other?
I can't even say back then,
You're about to go kill this guy, and you don't remember what you're mad at him about?
Oh, yeah, okay, you lost me on that. But so we had gotten into a fight earlier, right?
Right, and what's that fight about?
I don't know. Something happened where I got blamed for something I didn't do. So then we got into a fight.
Did he blame you for stealing some shit?
No, I think he stole some gas out of my car.
I mean, y'all are kind of blaming each other on stuff. That's why the first fight started. I mean, is that what you remember?
Right. I was mad because we got in a fight. I just feel I didn't give a shit at the time because, I just had a bad attitude.
Have y'all ever been in a big fight like this before?
No.
It's difficult to get much out of Randy about his fight with Roy Craig Jr. on August 10th. This would be a consequential, defining moment in Randy's life. Yet ironically, he can't even recall the trigger that incited the fight in the first place. What made Roy angry? How did the fight break out? Nearly 50 years have passed since the alcohol-hazed day, and perhaps the answers to those questions are now lost in the ravages of Randy's memory. The history between Randy and Roy ran deep. Roy was somebody that Randy had known for the entirety of his life. The boys grew up a mile away from each other on the same street in DeSoto. A year apart in age, they sat together regularly at the high school library and partied together too. This fight in August 1980 was therefore a significant tear in a long-standing friendship. From court documents, we know that Randy and Roy weren't alone that evening, but were joined by a friend, Jim Frazier, who would later become a key witness at Randy's trial. In Jim's account of the fight, Roy struck Randy several times, then left. An intoxicated Randy then turned to Jim and vowed that he would quote-unquote get even with Roy. With these words, Randy set his sights on revenge, and he wouldn't wait long to enact it. More on Randy's grim decision after the break.
Okay, so after the fight, what would cause you to say, I'm going to go get my gun?
Tell you the truth, it was kind of like this Johnny Cash song was stuck in my head. Shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. I got thinking, man, what the hell? I don't think I'll just kill this guy. See what it's like.
I guess you were into music a lot at the time?
Oh, yeah, I still listen to lots of music, but
The Johnny Cash song comes on. Where were you at when it came on?
in my car riding around,
And
stare at a car shelf.
And
But
obviously, this is back before cell phones and texting, all that. So whenever this Johnny Cash song came on, how far before that had you seen him face to face? Because you're not going to be talking on to him with a cell phone and all that. When did you see him before that song came on this last time where you triggered you?
probably, like I say, earlier that morning.
Okay. So were you feeling the vibe of the music and decided to say F it and do your thing?
Right.
For real?
Yeah, like I said,
that's really what you were kind of like doing?
Yeah, I just had a bad attitude back then. Just didn't really give a shit about things.
No.
Young and mad.
And I think that honestly, dude, I think about the maturity of people because they say the human brain doesn't develop till 25 and sometimes a little bit later. And
Right.
and I think every guy out there can look back and think that how silly or dumb they were or just didn't really gather everything like they do now as a 40, 30, 40, 50-year-old. So I get that 100%. Anybody that's listening probably can know what I'm talking about. But to be in a situation where you push some things to where you're going to not only kill somebody, but you're going to be inspired by a song, go through the process of grabbing the gun and then traveling somewhere to do it. There's a lot of time to kind of reflect, which is what the law, and the law looks at that a lot. So where was the gun at? Your house?
Yeah.
What kind of gun was it?
That's what got me. Shotgun.
Oh, really? Like a 12 gauge?
Nah, it's like a 20 gauge, but still, if shoot somebody, you're supposed to hurt them.
Well, here's the thing. If there's any gun out there I'm familiar with, it's shotguns. So did you have some bird rounds or like some slugs? Or not a slug, but
it was a 20 gauge. It was a modified. Had a modified thing on them, whatever that means.
But the shells were they bird shot or buckshot or what? Was it a slug?
Regular buckshot. Yeah, regular buckshot.
Was it a sawed-off barrel?
No, it's regular shotgun.
Whenever you got the gun, did you load up all the rounds that you could put into it there at the house?
No, it was just a single shot. But I put the shell in it, yeah.
Oh, it was a single shot 20 gauge?
Right.
Did you load one shell into it while you were at the house, or did you just bring it with you?
Yeah, I loaded it up because I had intent of shooting the guy.
So whenever you got the gun, where did you know Roy to be, the victim?
There was a little store down the road from our house where they had foosball, a little mini mart store. Everybody hung out down there. So I knew he'd be hanging out down there later on that night.
How far did you have to drive whenever you loaded up in the car to where the victim was?
It's just about a mile down the road.
So when you're driving down the road this time, what kind of music are you listening to?
I don't think I was even listening to music at that time.
What were you driving?
I had a 72 Oldsmobile Cutlass car.
72 Cutlass. So you're driving
a little two-door.
The two-door?
Yeah, it's a nice car back in the day. Yeah, it was like number one.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So you're driving down the road in this Cutlass, and you don't have the music on this time, or do you?
No, I didn't. I don't. Yeah, I didn't.
Did you drive the speed limit, take your time getting there?
Yeah, I had to go look. I was going on 10, looking him up.
So in this moment, you're driving this mile. Do you recall any thoughts about your future 10, 20, 30, 40 years from that day? Or did you think about his family, friends, or did you think about how this would affect or look or feel later? Did you feel any of that on the way?
No.
What did you feel?
Yeah, I wasn't, like I said, I was just a stupid kid. And so,
Randy, I believe 100% that you were a kid. The eyes of the law and some of the things that you experience take you away from being a child. One is that it's, graduating, going into the military. But even children don't know not to harm anybody also, though. Like 10-year-olds know that they're not supposed to harm anybody, and you can put a gun out and most 10-year-olds know that, hey, that'll kill someone and that's not right. So did you care if it was right or wrong then?
No, I didn't. But, like I said, I was just a dumb kid. Didn't think about the consequences or the shit. If I could go back, I wouldn't have did it, now.
I'm sure, and I believe that 100%. I'm sure that you look at it now and say, wow, that was just a mistake. It was completely not the right thing to do.
Johnny Cash's 1953 hit, Folsom Prison Blues, has become somewhat of an anthem for a young and defiant counterculture generation. The song cemented Cash's public image as an outlaw at the time and marked him as a champion of rebellious adolescents across the country. Cash drew inspiration from a Californian maximum security prison that gives the song its name. To write it, he tried to imagine the most heinous, perverse reason somebody could have to kill another human being. This led him to write the iconic line from the song, "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die." It was this single lyric that inspired Randy to kill Roy. In our most emotionally charged moments, music can transport us to a new state of mind, and a single-minded resolution took hold of Randy. Perhaps Randy resonated with the lyric for its apathy for the status quo and its callous disregard for the value of human life. With this lyric rolling around Randy's head, he loaded up a 20-gauge buckshot shotgun, claimed that he was going out to hunt rabbits, and drove down the highway with the single purpose of killing his childhood friend. One criticism that's been leveled against Folsom City Blues is that it romanticizes criminal violence. Certainly, Randy seemed to miss the lyric that follows in the same verse of the song. After shooting the guy in Reno, the protagonist of Cash's song hangs his head and cries as the real-world consequences of his actions catch up with him. With a blow, he realizes that he stripped himself of his own freedom. As Randy drove a mile down the road to Steve's Mini Mart in his old 72 Cutlass, he had plenty of time to reconsider the consequences of shooting Roy as he calmed down and the alcohol wore off. However, Randy failed to take this opportunity to do so.
Whenever you pull up at this place, what's the outside look like? Is it a full lot of cars there? And what was the business again?
It's just a little like mini mart grocery store. It has some little foosball tables and stuff in there for.
And what is the victim, Roy? What does he do there? What is his business there?
I used to go there to play foosball or whatever.
So
hang out.
Okay. How often would you hang out with him there?
Just every now and then. We wasn't rich or nothing,
Did you feel like whenever you were going to walk in there that you would know exactly where he would be?
Well, yeah, I've seen his car, so I knew he'd be there.
So whenever you walked in, a shotgun is not something you really conceal. It's like you either got it or you don't. Who's the first person that saw you with that gun? In the parking lot or anywhere?
There was a car pulled up and see me with it.
What did they say?
Oh, they didn't say nothing. I had the gun pointed at him.
You pointed it at the person that pulled up? Like threatening them?
No, I had to.
Oh.
At the same time that car pulled up, I pointed the gun at him. And I started not
Roy?
Yeah.
Where was he at? Where was Roy?
Standing there while I had the gun pointed at him.
Okay, hold on.
Outside the store.
Is Roy outside of the store?
Right, we was outside.
Okay, so you didn't even have to go inside. He was already out there.
Right.
Whenever your car pulled up, did he stare at you before he saw the gun you get out? Was he looking at your car?
Yeah.
Whenever he was looking at you, did it look like him happy to see you, or a little bit indifferent, or like mad?
No, he wasn't mad.
Was he happy to see you? Was he indifferent, or was he mad to see you?
Yeah, I'd say he was wondering what I was up to.
Okay. Why? I mean, you go there all the time. Why would he wonder what you're up to?
Because we had gotten to a fight earlier that day.
So he's indifferent. Okay. So whenever you open up the door, how far away from is Roy, the victim, from your car whenever you open the door?
10 feet.
10 feet. About
I remember that.
He's in front of your car?
Right.
Whenever you get out, did you take the shotgun with you?
Yeah, I got out, pointed at him, shot him.
What's the first look on his face when he noticed that you had a gun?
Scared.
Did he put his hands up and say, don't do it, or did he just have a scared look?
Nah, it happened too fast. He looked at me, I pulled the gun up and I shot him. That's like I said, I went there with the intent to shoot him. There wasn't no talking.
So whenever you raised the gun, did you put it to your hip, or did you put it
No,
up?
I just pointed at his chest and pulled the trigger.
10 foot away?
Yeah.
What happened to him whenever it hit him? Did he look at you in the face whenever you did that?
I pointed the gun at him, pulled the trigger, and it's like I say, it was 10 feet, it was close, it knocked him back.
Did he fall on his butt?
Yeah, it knocked him down, and I got in the car and I got out of there.
You jumped in the car and left?
Yeah.
Did he fall back on his back and was still moving whenever you left?
No, as soon as I shot him, it killed him instantly. I hit him in the chest.
Did anybody else witness that?
Just some people in that car, I think.
Randy, so you know that you did that so open and blatantly that there's, no getting away. I mean, how did you resolve yourself right then and there? Were you like, well, I'll just, go have my last drink, or what did you do?
Man, I just got out there. I didn't figure, I don't know, man. I wasn't thinking about all that, I just shot the guy with, like I say, dumbass thing to do.
Randy's description of shooting Roy is striking. He calls it a quote-unquote dumbass thing to do. Recklessness is the hallmark of youth, and we've all made some dumb, stupid decisions we later regret as kids. But it seems like an understatement to call shooting a childhood friend in cold blood one of those dumb decisions. The shooting took place near Steve's Mini Mart, which sat at the junction of highways JJ and 67. Steve's was a regular hangout spot in town, which Roy and Rusty frequented to play foosball together. Rusty knew this was where Roy would be as he pulled up into the parking lot that evening. The events of the shooting are a blur. Rusty states that Roy was already outside the Mini Mart when he arrived. In later testimony, Rusty told police that Roy walked towards him, confused by his presence and wondering if he'd run out of gas. At this moment, Rusty lifted his pistol and shot. As official documents state, Roy, catching sight of the gun, tried to run to the other end of the highway until the bullet hit him and he fell down. The autopsy would find that the shape of the gunshot wound was oval, an indication that Randy shot from an angle as Roy ran away. Rusty fled the scene, returning back to his home as Roy bled to death from a traumatic gunshot wound. The shooting happened on a busy highway at night with possible witnesses around, so it's not surprising that the police quickly cottoned on to the murder and linked Randy to the crime. More on that after the break.
Do you feel like at the time you really had that much hate in you to end someone's life over whatever it was that you can't even really remember?
Yeah, I was just mad at the world back then because nothing was going right. Couldn't get no job.
So this was also very, like, a lot of external stuff from your life was building up to, and the loss of the military and the job and all that, everything you felt was coming down on you?
Yeah, it's like the whole world just went to shit on me.
Were you very depressed at the time?
Yeah.
Where did you go after you shot Roy?
I went back home.
Who'd you live with?
I stayed with my dad at the time.
Was he home?
No, he wasn't home that night.
What did you do when you got home?
When I got home, just went back and climbed in bed, man.
What did you do with the gun?
I kept it.
You got in bed. And did you wake up the next morning?
No, I got arrested like 3 hours later.
In the middle of the night?
Yeah.
They had a warrant to come inside and get you?
Yeah, because I had, like I said, I was drunk and I had forgot all about the fight, so that's what connected them to looking for me, and then they put it all together after that.
Have you ever gotten hate mail from the victim's family?
No, but I think I started a family. I started a family feud, though. They all want to kill me.
How's that?
His family, they all hate me and shit, like I'm some kind of cold-blooded killer, which, well, I guess I am, as far as just shooting somebody, but...
You definitely fit that mold. It was killing...
Yeah, but I ain't no man.
I mean, I'm not saying that you're an evil person, because you don't do that all the time. You were angry, and you were also some shit going on in your life, but you definitely killed him, and it was definitely in cold blood.
Right. It ain't like I just doing that all the time, I want to do that shit. It just happens.
No, but one life is pretty big to a lot of people. It's their whole everything. So whether you kill 1 million or one, that one has people, that's their entire lives. That's their family, their loved one. If you ever have kids, you'll understand that. Or even just, if somebody did that to your mom or dad, it's bad. When I do this podcast, a lot of people probably kind of think maybe that I'm not thinking about the victim, but I definitely am. I just look for injustices and make sure that the public knows that you guys, most of you, I think, are sorry for what you did, and I give you that opportunity, and that's that. Are you sorry for what you did?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I say, I wish it would never happen. You can't go back in time, change nothing, so I'm just stuck.
Yeah. If you think about it, if you have a loved one that somebody did that to, they'd want you dead. You know that?
Yeah, I understand.
At the center of every case like this is a grieving family. That August night, Roy Craig Jr.'s family lost a son and a brother, and in a tight-knit town where everyone knows everybody else, their pain must have been palpable. Tragically, Roy's father was one of the first people to find his son lying along the highway. A few minutes earlier, he'd started to worry that Roy hadn't come home in time and left to check on him. Rounding a curve on the highway, he saw a gathered crowd and stopped. Roy's father was the one to identify the body as his dead son. In the early hours of the next Monday morning, police interrupted Randy's sleep and arrested him for the murder of Roy. Randy gave 3 tape-recorded statements while in police custody. In the second at 5:49 a.m., Randy finally admitted to shooting Roy. An expended shell was recovered in the woods at the back of Randy's house, and as Randy was charged, the hard consequences of his actions caught up with him. Today, Randy rejects being labeled as a quote-unquote cold-blooded killer. He has since taken accountability for committing a shocking crime, but he insists that his crime does not define him, nor does it make him an evil, irredeemable person. The past 50 years of Randy's life have been determined by this one cold-hearted and reckless decision he made from a place of anger with the cards his life had dealt him. Like many, with the sobering effect of many years in prison, Randy now deeply regrets the crime that cut Roy's life short prematurely and destroyed the course of his own.
Whenever they took you into jail, that's the last time you were ever free again, wasn't it?
Yes.
Were you surprised? I mean, you just went to bed as if, it's not like it was a secret what happened. You kind of did it out in the middle of everything.
Right, yeah, I didn't figure I'd get so much time.
Did you pretty much know that you were going to go to prison for sure?
Yeah.
Whenever you did that, even before, after, what kind of time did you think you would get from that in your head?
Probably 20 years or something, because I never had no criminal record or nothing. I've never done nothing wrong.
So about 20 years, and what did you get?
They sentenced me to life where I got served minimum of 50 years for capital murder.
Life with the minimum of 50 years because it's capital? Why? Because you planned it out and drove down there and had all the time in the world to say this is not the right thing to do?
Right.
Yeah. It's pretty deep too, because every guy out there knows that we've been mad at people before, but that's a lot of time to really reflect and drive down a mile down the road and get out and him to look at you in the face. That's pretty deep, man. Do you ever have nightmares about it?
No, but I hate that it happened, because he got dead and I got sent to prison. It destroyed both our lives.
It definitely did. Did you plead guilty?
I pled not guilty, but if they had all the evidence, they knew I was guilty.
So you pled not guilty, and now that everything's all done, you're just going to go ahead and tell me that you were guilty is basically what you're saying?
Yeah, they know I was guilty, but I wasn't going to plead guilty because they were trying to give me the death penalty. You know, I had all that evidence and stuff against me.
Well, usually if you plead not guilty and they find you guilty on capital murder, that's what makes you get the death penalty, right? Whenever you try to say that you weren't. I thought you couldn't come up with it. They didn't offer you a plea deal, say you say you're guilty and we won't give you the death penalty. They didn't do that?
No. The only thing you could get with the capital murder charge back then was either a life sentence where you serve 50 years or the death penalty. And the jury recommended 11-1 that I get the life, 50 years no pro instead of the death penalty. That was the only choices there was.
Do you think you should be put to death?
No.
Are you locked up with people that are put to death?
Yeah, I was down to Potosi where they execute people and everything else. And,
so whenever you compare your charges with theirs, I mean, they took somebody's life in cold blood. You took somebody's life in cold blood. How come they're killed and you're not?
I don't know. That's just how this stuff works.
Yeah, that's kind of strange if you think about it. You pretty much really thought about killing somebody. You were an adult. As far as the law is concerned, you had ample time to change your mind. I mean, you got out, the guy looked at you in the face. There was absolutely no self-defense the way you explain it, and you killed somebody in cold blood. And that's usually the people that you probably know that got the death penalty. They probably did something similar where they sought somebody out and killed them in cold blood. That's really crazy if you think about it, that some people are killed and some people aren't, that do the same thing.
Yeah, I think
makes you wonder.
Yeah, but a lot of it's got to do with your criminal record, too. If you've been all kind of different stuff over the years, different crimes over and over, they look at all that. I had never done nothing.
I'm sure they do look at that, but I feel like there's some people out there that have absolutely done nothing except for their crime, and their crime is so extensive where it's so cold-blooded. And
right.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of shooting from the hip a little bit, but I feel like, sometimes I know the math, even though I didn't do the problem. But anyway.
At his trial, Randy was charged with capital murder, the most severe form of homicide. Capital murder works slightly differently from regular murder, and it's reserved for the most egregious offenses. I'm not a lawyer, and without access to the documents from Randy's trial, we can only speculate about the argument of the prosecution. But it's likely that Randy's crime fell under the legal definition of capital murder because Randy killed Roy in a focused state of mind, despite having plenty of time to reconsider. Several counts of evidence worked against Randy. He had a clear motive after the fight and was even heard promising to get revenge on Roy. Nearly an hour later, he waited deliberately for Roy outside his regular hangout spot, and Roy, who was unarmed and turned to run when he saw Randy's shotgun, did not pose any dangerous threat to Randy. All this sealed Randy's fate and prompted the jury to sentence him to life imprisonment of 50 years without the possibility of parole. Although this sentence was long, Randy was luckily spared from death row. Those found guilty of capital murder have only two possible sentences: life imprisonment or the death penalty. Sometimes it seems that the legal system works like Russian roulette, where the luck of the draw can determine who gets to live and who dies on a capital charge. When settling on the sentence, the jury will measure a case against the legal framework. And as Randy points out, it's true that defendants with prior offenses have a higher chance of receiving the death penalty. But human bias also skews sentences, and the law is riddled with many inconsistencies that obstruct fair punishments. Now 63, Randy Armbruster has spent the majority of his life behind bars and has missed out on a changing outside world as he waits for his 50 years to pass by.
How's prison been for you since you got locked up?
I've pretty much been here my whole life, so I'm kind of used to it now. I'll get 69 when I get out, and I came in at 19. If they let me go, you know what I'm saying?
Randy, I appreciate you opening up to me. Pretty crazy story. I feel like you were going through a lot at that time. Maybe I couldn't quite get it out of you. You were just a very distraught person at the time, and you were sent off the edge, except that edge lasted a mile for you to, grab a hold of something. Unfortunately, you didn't, but obviously you're paying the price, but not with your life. Pretty much.
That's all.
Yeah.
Whole life.
And how do you resolve yourself to knowing that you're going to die in prison?
Well, I got a chance of getting out of here, but I don't look forward to it. I ain't got nowhere to go. All my family died since I've been here.
Well, Randy, I appreciate you talking with me. I'm sorry that you made those mistakes as a young adult, but you know that's why it's such bad, because you can't take it back. You know.
Too bad you can't do that in life. You know, I sure would hit the rewind button and go a different route, but you know, things happen.
Yeah. Well, hey man, take it easy and stay safe in there. Okay.
All right, help you out, son. Okay, thank you.
All right, take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
On the next episode of Voices of a Killer.
I think what we're about to get into, it's going to be difficult to hear, but you're going to be basically telling me what you did as a child.
It was a nightmare. My case is extremely stupid, but stupid hurts.
But dude, I can't fucking imagine you being out on the streets. I'm going to be honest with you. The crazy thing about this is it seems like everybody involved, from the perpetrators to the victims, are all children.
I moved out here to the Midwest, and all of a sudden I felt like an outsider.
Whenever you shot him in the head, did he look back up at you as you put the gun there?
Once I pulled that trigger, I felt like there was no turning back.
That's a wrap on this episode of Voices of a Killer.
I want to thank Randy for sharing his story with us today. His ability to be open and honest is what makes this podcast so special. If you want to listen to these episodes weeks in advance, you can now do so by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/voicesofakiller. There you will get access to raw interviews, unseen news coverage, and unique correspondence with the guests of Voices of a Killer. Head over to patreon.com/voicesofakiller to support the podcast. Your support is what keeps us passionate about bringing these stories to you.
A big shout out to Sonic Futures, who handled the production, audio editing, music licensing, and promotion of this podcast. If you want to hear more episodes like this one, make sure to visit our website at voicesofakiller.com. There you can find previous episodes, transcripts, and additional information about the podcast. Lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your feedback helps us improve and reach new listeners. Thank you for your support, and we can't wait to share more stories with you in the future. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Toby, and we'll see you next time on Voices of a Killer.